Hey, it's Gino here from Real Everyday English. Are you ready for another British English vocabulary lesson? If you are, let's go. Hello people, welcome back to the channel. Happy Sunday. In this week's lesson, I'm going to be using this piece of kit here to teach some common vocabulary. Now, here in England, we call this a Hoover. And a Hoover is basically a vacuum cleaner. Although here in England we don't tend to use the phrase vacuum cleaner. The only place I see that is in magazines or things like that where they're actually selling these pieces of kit. Here in England this is referred to as a Hoover. Okay, so we actually use the word Hoover as a verb as well. So this thing here is a Hoover, so that is the noun. But I use the Hoover to hoover the floor. So example, if I switch this on, I am now hoovering the floor. And to hoover means to clean using a vacuum cleaner. Okay, and the next point I want to teach you is a phrasal verb. And the phrasal verb is to hoover up. And there's a slight difference in between saying I'm hoovering and saying I'm hoovering something up, and I'm going to try my best to explain that difference to you right now. The first thing to mention is the fact that the verb hoover and the phrasal verb to hoover up are fully interchangeable when you are explaining to somebody else what you are actually doing. So if somebody phones me on the telephone and asks me, what are you doing? I could say I'm hoovering, but I could also say I'm hoovering up. So you can see here that there are some crumbs on the table, which I left here on purpose to teach you something. So I'm going to hoover up the crumbs. Okay, and this next example is an example of something where we couldn't necessarily use hoovering up. So if I switch the hoover on again, I can say I'm hoovering the stairs. But I couldn't really say I'm hoovering up the stairs, because that would imply that I'm actually hoovering the stairs themselves into the hoover, which we know isn't the case. So I could say something like I'm hoovering up the dust from the stairs, but I couldn't really say I'm hoovering up the stairs. It doesn't sound correct. It doesn't sound natural. Okay, moving on to the next vocabulary point. This is the head of the hoover. And there are two settings, two different functions. One is without the brush. So you can see the brush is retracted inside. And the other one is with the brush. So you can see that the brush is raised, so it will sweep the floor as well as you hoover. But the vocabulary point I want to teach you is bristle. Now, the bristles of a brush are the pieces of plastic or hair that are attached to it. So these are the bristles, and each one of them is referred to as a bristle. To give you another example of that, I have a sweeping brush, and you can see that I have hold of one bristle. So these are the bristles of the brush. Okay, and the next 2 points I want to teach you. See this? This is a tube. And the dictionary definition of tube is a long, hollow cylinder of metal, wood, etc., cardboard or glass. So you can see that this is hollow, i.e. there's nothing inside it, and it's long, and it's a cylinder, i.e. it's a round tube. So we call this a tube. And the next point that I want to teach you is the word telescopic. And you see how this tube is extendable, so I can extend it, make it longer. Well, the word for this kind of tubing, which slides in and out of each other, is telescopic. And the word telescopic means having or consisting of tubular sections which slide into each other. So this is a telescopic suction pipe. Okay, and the next vocabulary point is dust. And dust is small, particles are a fine powder of waste matter, basically. So you can see inside here is all the dust that the Hoover has collected. And the next vocabulary point is the word empty. And empty has a few different uses in English, but there's two I'm going to teach you right here. So the first one is a verb, and it means to remove all the contents of something. So I'm going to empty the dust out of the container, and to do that I just need to push this switch, and you can see that it opens, and then the dust is ready to be emptied into the bin bag. So I'm emptying the dust into the bin bag. So that last example got a little bit messy and a little bit dusty. But the next use of the word empty means when something doesn't contain anything, has nothing in it. So for example, this glass is empty because there is nothing inside it. And the next vocabulary point is the word to drag. And the word drag means to pull something or someone, usually across the floor. So I am dragging the Hoover across the floor. If you found this video super useful, don't forget to share it far and wide. See you in the next video, people. Ciao.